This phase of our discussion centers on the teams that have their starters in place unless they don't. And let's activate Tuanon. Is Tagovailoa truly the guy, or are the Dolphins once again letting their eyes wander? We already talked about the possibility of Tom Brady and Sean Payton joining forces there. That was something that was scrapped when Brian Flores filed his lawsuit. And there aren't a lot of options right now. The door is shut on Deshaun Watson. Maybe that's what saves Tua. Maybe what they're going to have is a backup who can play if Tua's injured, push him if he struggles, but not a guy who walks through the door and supplants him.
I could see that. That would be. I think that'll be the approach. I think Tua is the guy, 100%. And again, I know he's been a little bit of a polarizing topic. Certainly, I get that, but I think part of the reason Flores is out of there and Mike McDaniel is there is because of Tua. I think that Chris Grier and ownership are doubled down. And, okay, we drafted this guy at 5. We're going to try to make it work. And then you add in Mike McDaniel, who, like we talked about a little, I think, last week, Mike, he comes from a place where it's going to be about running the football. And, hey, wait, we got to the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship with a guy that didn't have a very strong arm and likes to throw a lot of balls 5 and 10 yards right over the middle. And that, to me, fits Tua as well. Tua's movement's pretty good. He'd be able to run the bootlegs and all of that, too, the play-action passes. So I think that they are totally sold for Tua, at least for 2022. And like you said, if there's anything that goes down, I think it's they bring in just a backup just so, hey, if he does get hurt and he's injury-prone, that their team doesn't fall off a cliff that way.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. And the fact that the market isn't going to be as robust as we thought makes it far less likely they supplant Tua. But we've talked before about Marcus Mariota. I think that's a possibility as a backup, as an option, as a plan B. Similar playing style makes it easier to have one offense instead of two. That's one of the things to remember when you talk about mixing and matching quarterbacks. The closer the quarterbacks are in style, the easier it is to just operate off of one playbook.
Right.
You don't have the playbook for this guy, and then we need a different playbook for that guy because this guy does things that guy can't do. The more that you line up the skill sets of your quarterbacks, the better off you are when you have to put a backup in. So I agree with you. Tua's the guy. Tuanon. We're on board with Tua. We're on board with Mike McDaniel. We like Mike McDaniel so much that we will allow those good feelings to trickle down to Tua and give him a full and fair chance this year. Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield will be the starter. Will he be the finisher? They're not going to, same reasons, they're not going to find somebody better right now, but will they find somebody who becomes the replacement if he's injured or if he stinks?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do at the backup quarterback situation as well. You brought up the name Case Keenum again. I would think that he'd be just the kind of guy you'd want to come back into town there. He's kind of a perfect fit, knows the offense. He's similar to Baker Mayfield like you talked about. You don't have to change the offense. But, hey, Baker's the guy. He is. We just know he's got to play better. He's the first pick of the draft for this football team. He's not expensive right now. Yes, he didn't play great last year, and we know that, but he was playing injured to add on top of that. They, of course, have, some issues there. There's injuries at wide receiver. They were young. There's nobody that was just glaring to where you go, oh, wait, they should be able to throw the ball all over the field at will. No. And I think when you couple that with what I've told you before, which I think Stefanski and that offense needs to grow in the passing game a little bit, that's where I give Baker Mayfield a little bit of a leeway. But, hey, this is a little bit, maybe even more dire than Tua, a put-up or shut-up year for Baker Mayfield for sure if he wants to stay in Cleveland and be that guy there.
Oh, this is it. Last year of his contract. And look, the Baker Mayfield situation is kind of like the Kyler Murray situation where it's easy to say yes or no, we want to keep him. The harder thing is finding a middle ground contractually. Baker Mayfield's going to want more than what the Browns would pay him. It's one of the reasons why he doesn't have a deal yet. I'm sure they've had at least some conversation at some point to come to the conclusion, let's not even sit down at the bargaining table here because it's going to piss everybody off because Baker's going to want so much more than we're going to pay him. There's no reason to have that conversation. Kyler Murray's in that same boat. They're close friends, by the way. I remember interviewing Kyler Murray at the Super Bowl before the year he was drafted, 2019. He got like 5 calls from Baker Mayfield during the 10 minutes we were talking. So they may be aligned in their belief that franchise quarterbacks are worth a lot. Kyler clearly is. For Baker, it's still to be determined. And I could see them getting a number 2 who plays if he gets injured, plays if they get to a point November, December where they just know he's not the guy. That's the other thing to remember here, Chris. Since he's in his last year of his contract, of his 5-year rookie deal with the option on the back end, if they decide around Halloween or Thanksgiving that we're just not going to sign this guy, we've seen enough, it's over, it's done, they may want to turn to somebody else and see what that person can do, because that guy could play his way into the job for 2023.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, certainly a possibility. But I do think they're going to give it their all to really make a determination on Baker Mayfield and see where it goes there. But, again, this is a team that is really good. I mean, we're all disappointed in the Browns and the way they performed last year. It was not up to the potential of that roster, that's for sure. So that's where you look at it and go, they got to have at least a competent backup. You got a quarterback who's, banged up, and he's a little reckless at times, throwing interceptions, going to tackle people, like you said. And he's not very big. He's not a big human being. So you got to have somebody to protect your football team in case he goes down again, that you guys aren't just, totally out of the playoff Super Bowl picture with a backup quarterback.
Tennessee Titans have Ryan Tannehill. It's a huge cap obligation, a huge guaranteed salary. I think if they do anything at quarterback, it's going to be draft a guy they can develop. They're not going to go bring some veteran in,
way.
Right. Tannehill, now that the Rodgers thing didn't land on their doorstep, it's not like there's anywhere else they can go. It's Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, the rest of the crowd there. They paid Harold Landry earlier this week. They're trying to run it back with who they have. Maybe they draft a guy and develop a guy, but that would be the extent of it in my view.
Agreed, 100%. First off, I know Ryan Tannehill played like crap in that divisional playoff game. We get that. But, damn, you just don't throw the guy down the river because of that. You don't. I mean, not after 3 years of going to the playoffs, AFC Championship game, home loss to the Ravens. Okay, yes, and they lose to the Bengals at home. I get that. It's still damn good. It really is. And, again, it's not like he's had the most unbelievable firepower around him either. Let's remember that. So, again, I look at Ryan Tannehill, who's, I feel like, been a little bit unfairly criticized here. This is a little bit of a media fixation of, like, wait, this guy played a bad game in the last game we saw him. They should replace him. I don't think their Tennessee was looking to replace him at all. Rodgers, right, like you said it. I think you phrased it right. If he fell in their lap, okay, it's Aaron Rodgers. Other than that, you're not tossing over Ryan Tannehill overboard for a bag of potatoes. And I'm with you. If they do anything, I see a mid-round pick with a guy they think maybe has some potential to be something down the road.
If I didn't know better, I would say that you are politicking to become the president of Tannanon. I don't know. Just saying.
Nope.
L.A. Raiders, that was a long time ago. Las Vegas Raiders, that's more recent, and that is more accurate by far. Derek Carr, under contract for 1 more year. There's been talk about a contract extension, $40 million a year. Then I see some noise about the Browns maybe making a play for Derek Carr, the Colts making a play for Derek Carr. What do the Raiders do with Derek Carr now that Josh McDaniels is the head coach?
I mean, again, I feel – Derek Carr is a top 10-ish quarterback in football. He's played really damn good, ball the last 2 years. Last year, I mean, again, that wasn't a star-studded team. All the adversity, everything he had to do, shows the toughness to lead, make big throws in big situations. Drives his team down against Cincinnati inside the 10 to have a chance to, put that game into overtime or win the game. I'm wrong there. So, I mean, this is one where Derek Carr's your guy unless you just get some crazy offer that just blows you out of the water. And then you go, okay, well, hey, we're the Raiders, and we're totally flipping over the way we're playing our team anyways. It makes sense. But, man, I think Derek Carr is a little disrespected sometimes with some of this talk, and I do look at him as a top 10-ish type quarterback.
If they would move on from Derek Carr, does that mean that the Raiders become the favorites for Jimmy Garoppolo? Is that what that means?
Right? Wouldn't it mean that? I think that would be the next piece of the puzzle. That at least where my brain goes. That's what I think. Yes, but I don't know, and I don't know where. Maybe McDaniel's view of Garoppolo has changed. I don't know what the view is there. but that certainly makes sense. But, man, you don't give Derek Carr away. That's for sure. I mean, he's proven that he can take coaching, be tough, makes a lot of good decisions. And, yeah, he's not a superstar going to make plays off schedule all the time, but he makes enough to help their team, and he's really damn good.
By the way, it really would be nice if Josh McDaniels would drop the S from his last name or Mike McDaniel would add an S to his, because
it is confusing.
For those of us who aspire to get everyone's name right, every time we go to say one of the two names now, there's that nanosecond of,
yes,
is this the one with the S or without the S? The Giants don't have the QB that they wanted in Daniel Jones, but they seem intent on giving him another shot. I don't know what they're going to do with his fifth-year option. It's hard to reconcile all the great stuff they said about him as Joe Shane showed up as the GM. When Brian Daboll was hired as the coach, they lead you to believe he's the guy. But, we're not going to commit the guaranteed fifth-year salary to him. And they're going to take the risk then that he's great. They're going to have to sign him as he approaches free agency or use the franchise tag. But what do? There's a report that they're interested in Mitchell Trubisky to compete with Daniel Jones. That would make sense because of the Daboll connection. Is it that simple? They bring in Trubisky, and he's the plan B who can become plan A if Jones doesn't get it done?
I would be all for that. As a Giants fan, I would be for that. And even as a guy that supports Daniel Jones, I would be for that. I would. It makes too much sense. First off, let's go back to just Daniel Jones and the base thoughts here. And I talked about this with some New York media people last week at the Combine. Truly, how do you really know what Daniel Jones is? This is the first thing. I mean, again, and I know John Mara said this, but how do you really know when you've been behind? And I just want to make sure I phrase this correctly. Not one of the worst, not one of the 5 worst, not one of the bottom third of the league worst, the absolute worst offensive line in football. Like, not even freaking close, the absolute worst. Like, not even close. So that's where it's hard. And I understand he has everything else, and I think he's got a skill set that I look at and they look at and still go, wait, I think that's starting NFL quarterback skill set, let alone the intangibles and everything off the field that go along with it. I'm one for Trubisky. Yes, one, Daniel Jones. Hey, they like to run the quarterback. I think Daboll will do that. So, hey, you got to protect yourselves that way. The Giants were trying to build something. Let's protect the team in case Daniel Jones gets hurt. Like we saw last year, it just doesn't totally deteriorate with less than backups. And I get a lot of this question from New York media. Well, if they bring Trubisky in, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones. There already is. It's do or die. I look at it that way, Mike. And no matter who the backup is, if Daniel Jones plays a poor first 3 games of the year, no matter who the backup is, people are going to go, well, maybe we should put him in. It doesn't matter if it's Trubisky or not. So I'm all for it, Mike. What are your thoughts there?
I agree with you. And this whole idea that, Baker Mayfield, he'll get upset if they bring in a really good backup, or he'll crumble if they have a really good backup. Look, if you can't take the pressure of having in-house competition, how are you ever going to even get close to a Super Bowl?
Exactly.
How are you ever going to reach your potential if you don't embrace any and all competition? Because it is the ultimate meritocracy. If you play well, you keep playing, you win games, you achieve. And if you can't deal with somebody behind you, if you have to go get your kid to fill his shoes with shaving cream because you can't take the heat, then you got a problem. Not that you did that at behest of Phil. You did that on your own.
I did do that on my own.
Cleats of Jeff Hostetler with shaving cream way back when. All right, the Eagles. Jalen Hurts. We've talked about Deshaun Watson.
That's it.
And the noise was there last year, and the noise is still there.
Yeah.
Look, I had Howie Roseman on last week. Look, it's like the same thing that we said about if a quarterback's really available in trade. If he's not, you laugh at the question. If he is, you say, well, we have no intention to trade him. And I got enough of a vibe with Howie that, this isn't Ron Jaworski in his prime.
Yeah.
This isn't Tom Brady. This is a guy that, he's done well, but you're not going to engrave his name onto the plate that says this guy's our quarterback for the next 15 years.
Yeah, right. There's still questions. There's certainly enough good to go, hey, wait, we can go into next year and he can be our starter and we feel like we can win. and he can improve on some things that we know need to get better, definitely. Okay, but yeah, I got no problem with their thought process and what they're doing with Jalen Hurts. But yeah, at the same time, we both know, and we've heard enough to know that I think if Deshaun Watson becomes, available here sometime soon, and they can get him for the right price, that yes, I think Philadelphia is on that short list of teams that's going to be involved there. It's Deshaun Watson. He's a top 5 talent in the game when he's healthy and hitting on all cylinders. There's no doubt about it. Jalen Hurts, there's still questions about his game. We know that too. Everything is good except just a little more. We need more surgicality in the drop back pass game. And that reared its ugly head. We saw that in the wild card game against the Bucs. A lot of errant throws, a lot of missed throws. When we saw they couldn't run the ball, and that's where there's more to be desired. But there's still a lot to like, and I understand what they're doing there in Philadelphia.
I'm not sure surgicality is a word.
No, it's probably not.
There is a chance that we do have another Chris Simms accidental skull, or the initial results from Google may support you. Surgicality. The Vikings, we already solved the Vikings, but let's just go ahead and put a pin in it, and let me apply a megaphone to it. Trade Kirk Cousins to the Colts, sign Tom Brady, / trade for Tom Brady, or trade for Deshaun Watson. There's a show, that's a show.
Yeah, I know. That's what you want. There's GM Mike Florio. Kirk Cousins is still
Hire
good.
Jim Harbaugh.
He's one of the top. He's in the top half of football as far as quarterbacks are concerned. You said it right. He doesn't make any off-schedule plays or do anything like that. It has to be within the realm of the offense. But if you give him an offense, he can be surgical. I will say that. And I think with Kevin O'Connell and the fact that, he's coming from McVay, and McVay's going to have nothing but good to say about Kirk Cousins, and we know Shanahan loved Kirk Cousins, I think he's going to want to make sure, hey, I'm an offensive head coach who hasn't called plays. And Kirk Cousins, he's going to understand my offense. I think he's going to want things to look good, and I expect Kirk Cousins to be the guy there this year.
And by the way, I joke about the Vikings should have hired Jim Harbaugh. I so far, I like what I've heard from Kevin O'Connell, but as always, it will be proven when 0-0 becomes 0-1, 0-2, 2-0. Who knows? But we'll develop our impressions based on what happens on the field.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.